Hey guys, welcome to a new development video for Chokepoint. It's gonna be a small one about a new system we're integrating to make the melee weapon animations time frame independent. Right now, how the animations are done, I mean, when Flash lags due to poor performance, like you're gonna move at the same speed because all the code is frame rate independent, but your animation's gonna run slower, so you're actually visually gonna slide. That's fine for like running, you know, dashing and jumping and all that, because you're still moving at the right speed and all. But when we're talking about like the pumping shotgun pumping animation, that's pretty bad when you. I mean, it looks very bad when you're lagging and then the code takes over and like interrupts the animation because it's all based on time, you know. So if the animation is playing slow, it's not gonna wait for it. It's gonna go back to aiming with the shotgun. So that's one issue that this new system was gonna fix. But mostly it was all for the melee weapons. So right now, like if you were lagging, you were actually like swinging your weapon slower than other players, so that's pretty bad, and you get a disadvantage if you get some lag, or even if you're like at 25 FPS, which is kind of fine when you know for a web game. The other guy is running at 30 FPS, so he's still swinging like slightly faster than you are, so that's not a good feature. So the new system is based on time, so it's gonna skip the frames, whatever. It's gonna go as fast as it needs to be. And because of that, I needed to move all the animation events in the code to end the animation when I need to, or to do like the melee hit test to know if you hit the other guy. So I needed to move that in the code. So what I did. This is more like a technical video, so if you're not into programming or whatever, maybe you won't find that very interesting. But basically, I needed like a new data structure called animinfo. So it represents all the data for one animation, like the hammer charge animation, or the hammer attack, or the blade, the high swing, or whatever. All these animations that I'll need to set up. So it's basically the start frame, the end frame on the Flash timeline, and an array of events like allow an event to allow the attack to be interrupted, or the event to do the hit detection when you swing, or even just like an event to trigger a sound or that kind of stuff. So that's it. And so when you create it, you specify the frame range, and then you can add events to it. So right now I was doing it for the hammer, and it's already working for the hammer for the Vanguard class. Now I need to go over all the classes and all the melee weapons and their different animations to set them up. But the other data structure is the event, so it's one frame and a string for the event, like the event could be called like do attack hit, and then that's what I'm gonna trigger in the code when it goes there, when it gets to that event. So first of all, like I said, I set it up for one character, the Vanguard. So it looks something like this. So for the Vanguard, all the classes right now, the hammer charge, the hammer attacks is a charge and a attack, and it's all I consider it like a mid attack because it's not directional like the blade attacks. So it's just the mid one for charge and attack. So yeah, so I set up here the frame range. I don't like hard coding these values here, but I'm not sure there's a much better way to do it in Flash. It's all based on the timeline. So what sucks is that if I make an animation longer, like before that animation, I'll need to shift all these little values, but it's no big deal. So the charge has the allow queue. That's something for multiplayer. I won't go into that, but it's one of the events on the charge attack, on the charge animation. And the attack, the hammer does like 4 points of attack. So when you get like a really good hit, it really does a lot of damage. If you just hit with one of the tests, it does less damage. So that's how we intended it. So that's the setup for the two animations. So I'll need to do that for all the animations. So in the code, what happens is the weapon melee class handles that part. So when we go in a new animation state, say like I start attacking and it goes in the hammer charge animation, for instance. So the weapon's gonna ask the owner, so the character like the Vanguard, to give it the animation info for the current state. So you get that here, and then what you do is just gonna move this so we see better. Okay. And then I'm gonna key that the start frame in a value, because I'll be managing the frame at the animation frame we're at, like by code, instead of relying on Flash and the variable frame rate. So I'm gonna handle it myself, and then I set up the first event if we have events in the code. So and then what happens is in the update code of the weapon, I only do that if the state is not idle. So if it's because when we're in idle, we have the aiming arc. So depending on where you look, the animation is following that direction. But when you're charging or attacking or whatever other state, then it's gonna handle the frame and update it in a frame rate independent manner. So the game runs at 30 FPS, so that's why I have a little hard-coded 30 here. I could probably like get the FPS from the document, but all our games are 30 FPS, and you rarely go beyond that on Flash because it's not very performant. So I get the current frame. I go forward with the frame based on the time. So the delta time here, that's what makes the whole code frame rate independent, because we're taking like the small time value that you receive every frame, and when you have low performance, that value goes higher. So it always adapts to how fast your game is updating to give you like consistent results. So we go forward, but we cap it with the min here. We cap it at the end frame, so we're not going beyond the end frame. At the end frame, you're basically triggering the event that changes the animation or the state. So, and then we get the new frame. So if we moved frame, so the new frame is different than the current frame. Should probably call that old frame. Old frame and new frame. So new frame is different than old frame. Then we actually update the events. So with the while, like if you're knowledgeable about programming, the while is just a very standard. It's a very standard way of doing things. Like as long as there's an animation event and the new frame is beyond or equal to the frame of the event, so that means we're on the event or we passed it, we're gonna trigger that event. So if there's an event at frame 5, then when we get to frame 5, or if we move beyond it, like in one frame, and we're at frame 7, then it's gonna trigger it. So that makes sure we're not skipping events if we're not falling flat on the frame of the event. If we're beyond it, we still trigger it. So I trigger the event here, and I go to the next. And if there's more event at where I'm at, then I set it. And if I'm beyond like if there was one event, then this value is like beyond the first event. So I'm gonna set it to null, and that loop's gonna end. And if there was another event, but we're before its frame, then this loop is gonna end as well because of that test, because it won't be greater or equal than the frame of the event, will be before it. So it's gonna, in other updates, it's gonna eventually get to the event. I hope that's kind of clear, but that's what this part of code does. It updates the animation event that I set up. Those here. So if all goes well, I run at 30 frame per second. Then every frame I'm gonna go 1 frame ahead, and 1 frame I'm gonna trigger that event. The other frame I'm gonna trigger that event. But if there's a big lag spike, not net lag, but like performance lag, and 1 frame I'm at like 12:22, and the next frame I'm at 12:27. Like so, all these events will be triggered in this loop here. So that's triggering the events, and then if the new frame is the end frame of the state of the animation info, we're done. We trigger the ended event. That is like something hard-coded that I react to. When I get that event, I switch to the next state or handle it properly. So that's the new system. It's just managing the events and the frame manually, and that value here is used. So get anim frame override, that's called on the weapon to get the current state, the current frame override, because that's what it does. By default, the character is not gonna play like weapon animations. It's just gonna handle the aiming arc. So depending on where you're aiming, the character is gonna go in the. I'll show you like a clear example with the weapons. That's like the pistol. We got the aiming arc for the pistol, so we're using the mouse position, the crosshairs position, to determine what angle you're aiming at, and then we're going at the right frame in the animation. But when the weapons, like when you start attacking with the melee weapon's gonna, instead of going with the aiming frame, it's gonna return like a new frame for the animation state, like charging or attacking. So that's what get animation anim frame override does. If it returns -1, then it's like it tells the player to do whatever it would do normally. But if it returns an actual value, that's the value we're updating in the code I showed you before. Then in the code here, if there's a frame override, then we set the upper body parts to the right frame. Instead of the aiming frame, we go to the override frame. So that's gonna go over like the charge and attack animations for melee weapons. And the same will happen with the shotgun weapon. The shotgun weapon is gonna have that function overridden as well to return the right frame when you're pumping the shotgun, and it's gonna be in a frame rate independent manner. So yeah, so it was a pretty technical video, but you know, that's part of making games. You know, programming is programming, and it's not always about graphics or about something more than just pure programming. So that's one of these cases where I needed to rely on the frame rate and not let Flash play its animation at its own speed. Like, I need to actually control the speed of my animations manually to be frame rate independent. Yeah, the next step for that system is here when we update the frame state frame, the anim state frame with the 30 FPS. So that's gonna go forward like at a normal speed, but I'm actually gonna add like a weapon speed. So I can do it right now, like I'll call it attack speed. So if that's 1, if that value is 1, then it's gonna behave normally like at 30 frames per second. If we want a weapon that is faster, then I'm gonna put that value like 1.2 or something like that to get say like a 20% speed increase on the attack. So I could set it to 2, and the animation will be like double speed. I can't. Let's just do it. Actually, like I'm gonna implement it right now, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll do like the wrench attacking super fast and the normal hammer attacking normally, and you're gonna see the difference. By default, it's gonna be a 1, but let's go in the wrench weapon and set it to let's say 1.5. So it's gonna not be too crazy, just much faster, but not crazy. All right, so that's all we need basically to support an actual weapon swing speed. So unless yesterday I was breaking some stuff, it should compile fine. I was not expecting to add a feature right there in the video, but why not, you know? It's a simple feature, I need to do it, so why not? The other feature that will come with this new system is an attack rate. So instead of being able to, you know, swing as fast as you can, some weapons will limit. You know, like the sniper, there's a fire rate for weapons, for projectile-based weapons. Like the sniper shoots at a certain rate, the pistol shoots at a faster rate, which is still slower than like a machine gun. But we'll do the same with melee weapons. Some, like say like a big sword is not gonna allow you to swing as fast as the electric blade that we have right now, which is like normal stuff, you know. But it's not there yet, and we have a bunch of new weapons coming, and some of these weapons we want to have slower attack rates and slower or faster attack speed, which is the new thing I just added. So let's try this. I'm gonna equip the hammer and the wrench. I need to use the Vanguard because she's the only one with her hammer animation setup, like I showed you before. So you can see it works. Like the new system is playing the animation just fine. And let's try it. You can see it's much faster. Actually, let's try 2. Let's set it. No, I'll keep it 1.5. I'll change the other hammer to be slower so we can see the opposite effect when you make it slower. So I'm gonna set it at 75% speed. So that's 1.75. So we'll see the difference between the two weapons a bit more. So one's slower, the other's faster. Alright, let's try it. Yeah, I like that. So that's that's the new feature. Cool. I'm happy it worked right away. I'm not a big fan of going under the 30 frame per second rate, but because you kind of feel like it's choppy, like it's an animation playing at 25 FPS or 20 FPS. It's not the best. So in general, I think the weapons would be, the attack speed would be at least 1, and some weapon a bit faster. I could imagine going slightly slower just to tweak weapons. Like if we decide one weapon is, we like the power of it, but we don't like the swing speed, so we could go a bit under without too much visual crappiness. Alright, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this slightly more or extremely more technical video, and I would really appreciate if you subscribe to our channel, and so you can see all our updates, because lately we'll be doing many updates, especially with all the weapons coming. We're gonna do a bunch of weapon showcase for each new weapon. So yeah, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have people interested in game development, show them these videos and spread the word about what we're doing and how this game is progressing. The game's still just on armor games for now. The player base is small because it was exclusive to armor games, and we released a fairly limited version because we only had 1 month to make it. So what we're doing right now is preparing the global release. So we're adding all the game modes, all the new classes, all the weapons. We're gonna add the persistency system, so you can level up, and with a mastery system, so you can, if you use your machine gun a lot, you're gonna, level up in the machine gun skill. All that good stuff. So yeah, keep following us, and thanks for watching. See ya.